You've already carried early game in the top lane, and now the turrets have begun to fall. It's time to flex your skills and carry into the late game. You can do so by properly communicating with your team to manage the objectives on the map. This is Carrying in the Top Lane, Part 2. One of the first things that will signal moving out of the early game and into the late game is when the towers start to fall. As such, you should carefully consider when you want to take the enemy tower. If you have a fair lead in the top lane and are able to continue creating kills on your lane opponent, then you might consider prolonging the lane phase in order to snowball your lead in lane. Alternatively, if you have a fair lead in the top lane and your allies are struggling, you can consider taking the enemy's outer turret, pushing your minion wave, and then roaming to assist your allies. If you decide to do this, be sure you're able to help your allies take a turret in another lane, create a kill, or take Dragon or Baron. This will ensure you are gaining gold and experience while the enemy gets free experience in the top lane. If you lose your outer turret before the enemy, you can freeze the minion wave on your side of the map in order to force the enemy top laner to roam or to be overextended. You should do this if you have a significant disadvantage or are pretty far behind. You can also shove the minion wave toward the enemy turret and then roam to farm the jungle or assist elsewhere on the map. You can consider this option if you are only slightly behind or if you are ahead in experience but lost your turret first. In both situations, be sure to ward the river in front of the Baron pit to keep vision on anyone roaming to or from top lane. This will help keep the rest of your team safe while also allowing you to manage your own objectives. If you've taken the enemy's outer turret and you see the top laner back near their tier 2 turret, you can consider taking the Rift Herald with the help of your jungler. You might also consider taking the Rift Herald after a kill on the enemy top laner or after they teleport to the bottom lane. In both situations, the enemy top laner will be unable to counter you as they are across the map. To take the Rift Herald most efficiently, be sure to have one champion stay in front of it while the second attacks it from behind. It is vulnerable from the rear, and this will help you take it quickly. Once you kill the Rift Herald, you will get a buff similar to the one from Baron, so you will have strengthened pushing power. You can best take advantage of this by split pushing in the top lane and pressuring the enemy's tier 2 turret. Be sure to ward the enemy jungle to keep yourself safe from incoming ganks. Near the end of each game, the priorities of most top laners will dramatically change. You will no longer be focusing on strictly top lane. You will play a major role in skirmishes and team fights. You will likely become your team's bodyguard, protecting your carries and threatening the enemy team's carries. The manner in which you do so will depend on if you are a tanky top laner or a carry top laner. If you are a tanky top laner such as Renekton or Malphite, you'll become the front line for your team. Since you are able to absorb the most damage, you are responsible for leading your team toward each objective in the late game. You should also be the one on your team to engage the enemy when the opportunity arises. Make it your goal to get in the face of the enemy carries and lock them down so that your allies can finish them off. Alternatively, you can focus on peeling for your carries to keep them safe. Whichever you decide, your choice should help your carries put out more damage throughout each team fight. If you are a carry top laner, such as Riven or Lissandra, you will be an important damage dealer in the late game. During team fights, you should position yourself close enough to the front line so that you can respond, but not close enough to put you at risk. After your own front line enters the battle, you should back them up by unleashing your damage on highest priority targets. This usually means that you will focus on killing the enemy AD carry or mid laner. In the end, it falls on the top laner to help the rest of their team execute during the late game, especially in team fights. You will have a large role to play if your team is going to be successful in the late game and come out victorious. By understanding what your options are after the outer turret falls in the top lane, you'll be able to set your team up for success and carry your team to victory.